Sarah, honey, we simply can't afford to help with Ethan's surgery right now. You know how tight money is after Rebecca's wedding expenses. The words hit me like ice water. I'm standing in my kitchen, gripping the phone so hard my knuckles have gone white, listening to my mother deliver this line with the same casual tone she'd used to decline dinner plans. In the background, I can hear my father's booming laugh at whatever's playing on their 70-inch television, the one they bought last month to properly display Rebecca's engagement photos. I close my eyes and count to 3. My son is sleeping 20 feet away with a heart that skips beats, and my mother just told me that flower arrangements matter more than his life. Mom, we're talking about Ethan's heart surgery. The doctors say. I know what the doctors say, Sarah, but you have to understand our position. Their position. I'm Sarah Chen, 34 years old, and I've been understanding their position my entire life. I work double shifts as a pediatric nurse at Portland Children's Hospital, spending my days watching other families get the medical miracles I can't afford for my own 8-year-old son. Ethan needs a $45,000 surgery for a rare heart condition called tetralogy of Fallot. Without it, his tiny heart will give out before his 10th birthday. My insurance covers 60%. I need $18,000 that I don't have. Sarah, are you still there? I'm here. Good. Now you know we'd help if we could, but Rebecca's wedding cost $230,000. The silence stretches between us like a chasm. I can hear the television still playing in the background, some sitcom laugh track filling the space where my mother's compassion should be. That's different, Sarah. Rebecca only gets married once. And Ethan only gets one heart. Don't be dramatic. Children have surgeries all the time. I'm sure the hospital has payment plans. Dramatic. I'm being dramatic because I want my son to live past elementary school. I lean against my kitchen counter, staring at the pile of medical bills next to the coffee maker. Each envelope represents another piece of Ethan's future I can't afford. Mom, I've tried everything. I work 70 hours a week. I've sold everything I can sell. I need help. Sarah, you're a smart girl. You'll figure something out. You always do. There it is. The line that's defined my entire relationship with my parents. Sarah will figure it out. Sarah always does. Sarah doesn't need anything because Sarah is responsible, reliable, invisible Sarah, who handles her problems quietly while everyone else gets taken care of. What if I don't figure it out this time? Don't talk like that. Everything happens for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. My son's heart defect happened so my parents could demonstrate their true priorities. Rebecca's engagement happened so they could liquidate their retirement savings for centerpieces. My divorce happened so I could raise a sick child alone, while my ex-husband started a new family in California. I have to go, Mom. Ethan's calling for me. He isn't. Ethan is fast asleep, his small chest rising and falling in the uneven rhythm that breaks my heart every night. But I need this conversation to end before I say something I can't take back. All right, honey, give him our love. And Sarah, don't stress so much about this. Everything will work out. She hangs up before I can respond. I set the phone down carefully on the counter and stare at it for a long moment. 34 years of being the responsible daughter, and this is what I get. My parents spent more on Rebecca's wedding cake than I make in 2 months. They hired a photographer who charges more for one day than Ethan's surgery costs. They rented a vintage Rolls-Royce for photos that cost more than my car is worth. But they can't help save their grandson's life, because money is tight. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, you'll understand what happened next. I walk to Ethan's room and stand in his doorway, watching him sleep. His dark hair falls across his forehead, and his hand is curled around the stuffed elephant his doctor gave him to explain why his heart sounds different from other kids. He has no idea that his grandparents just chose a wedding dress over his heartbeat. Tomorrow, I'll figure out what comes next. Tonight, I'm just going to stand here and promise him something I don't know how to keep. That he'll get his chance to grow up. I've been the responsible one for as long as I can remember. Growing up, while Rebecca got princess dresses and ballet lessons, I got practical shoes, and the expectation that I'd handle whatever came my way without complaint. She's 28 now, 6 years younger than me, but she's never had to figure anything out on her own. I remember my nursing school graduation. I'd worked 3 jobs to pay for it. Studied until my eyes burned, graduated summa cum laude. The ceremony was on a Saturday morning in May. Rebecca had a modeling audition that same day. Some local department store catalog that paid $200. Guess which one my parents attended? Sarah understands, my mother had said, when I called them afterward. This could be Rebecca's big break. Rebecca's big break lasted exactly one photo shoot. She made enough money for a new purse. My birthday has been forgotten 4 times in the past 6 years. Each time, Rebecca needed something urgent. Shopping funds for a job interview, gas money for a weekend trip, emotional support after a breakup. I stopped mentioning my birthday 3 years ago. It was easier than watching them scramble to pretend they hadn't forgotten again. But none of that prepared me for what happened when Rebecca got engaged to Marcus Thompson. Marcus is 32, an investment banker with perfectly styled hair and a trust fund that could buy a small country. He proposed with a ring that cost more than I make in a year. The moment Rebecca said yes, my parents transformed into wedding planning machines with unlimited budgets and zero sense of reality. I watched them liquidate their entire retirement account, 40 years of careful saving, gone in 6 months. They took out a second mortgage on their house. They sold my grandmother's antique jewelry collection, the one she'd specifically left to both Rebecca and me. They never asked if I wanted to buy any of it. They just sold everything to pay for upgraded linens at the reception venue. The wedding cost $230,000. I know because my mother told everyone who would listen, beaming with pride like she'd just announced Rebecca had won a Nobel Prize. Rebecca's dress cost $8,000. It was handmade by some designer in New York, fitted 5 times, shipped in a special climate-controlled container. She cried tears of joy when she tried it on. I'm wearing scrubs with holes in them right now, the same ones I've been wearing for 3 years, because buying new ones means less money for Ethan's medical appointments. My work shoes are held together with medical tape. But Rebecca needed designer shoes that matched her designer dress, so my parents found another $1,000 somewhere. The venue was a vineyard estate 2 hours outside Portland. They rented it for 3 days, one for rehearsal, one for the wedding, one for recovery. The flowers alone cost $12,000. $12,000 for flowers that died 3 days later. I tried to be happy for her. I really did. Rebecca looked beautiful in her engagement photos, radiant and glowing the way brides are supposed to look. Marcus seemed to love her genuinely, and God knows she deserved happiness. I've never begrudged her that. What I couldn't understand was how my parents found money for ice sculptures and vintage champagne, but couldn't find money to help their grandson breathe properly. I mentioned Ethan's condition 6 months ago, right after we got the diagnosis. We were all together for Sunday dinner, something my mother insists on even though I usually work weekends. Ethan had just come home from his first cardiology appointment, exhausted from all the tests. The doctor says he needs surgery, I'd said quietly, not wanting to scare Ethan, who was coloring at the kitchen table. It's expensive, but it's the only way to fix his heart. My father looked up from his newspaper. My mother kept stirring the sauce for Rebecca's favorite pasta dish. How expensive? My mother asked. $45,000. Insurance covers most of it, but I still need about $18,000. Rebecca was showing my mother fabric samples for bridesmaid dresses. She didn't even look up. Well, my father said, folding his newspaper with a sharp snap. We're sure you'll figure it out, Sarah. You always do. Those exact words. Like Ethan's heart surgery was just another problem for responsible Sarah to solve quietly and efficiently, without bothering anyone important. 3 weeks later, they hired a wedding planner who charged $15,000 just for coordination services. I think that was the moment I started to understand something fundamental about my place in this family. I wasn't the daughter. I was the family's problem solver, the one who handled difficult things so everyone else could focus on beautiful things like weddings and photo shoots and designer dresses. Ethan deserved grandparents who fought for him the way they fought to get Rebecca the perfect vintage car for her wedding photos. Instead, he got me. And I was starting to realize that might have to be enough. I'm sitting in my car in the hospital parking lot after another 14-hour shift, staring at numbers that will never make sense. On my phone's calculator, I've run the same equation 27 times, hoping somehow the math will change. Ethan's surgery, $45,000. Insurance coverage, 60%. My portion, $18,000. Money in my savings account, $3,212. The gap between what I have and what I need feels like an ocean. I've already worked every overtime shift available. I've sold my grandmother's engagement ring, my laptop, my car stereo, anything worth more than $50. I called my ex-husband David last week, swallowing my pride to ask for help with his son's medical bills. Sarah, you know I'd love to help, but with the new baby and everything, David has a new baby, a new wife, a new life in California where 8-year-old boys with heart conditions don't exist. He sends Ethan birthday cards with $20 bills inside and considers himself a father. I lean my head against the steering wheel and close my eyes. The parking lot is quiet except for the distant sound of ambulances and the hum of the hospital's air conditioning units. This is my life now. Sitting in parking lots, calculating impossible numbers, trying to figure out how to save my son's life on a pediatric nurse's salary. When I get home, there's mail waiting on my kitchen counter. Bills, mostly. A reminder from the cardiologist's office about Ethan's upcoming appointment. And then I see it. The wedding invitation. Even the envelope is ridiculous. Thick cream-colored paper that feels like fabric. My name written in gold calligraphy that probably cost more per letter than I spend on groceries in a day. There's a wax seal on the back, pressed with Rebecca's and Marcus's initials intertwined like some medieval coat of arms. I open it carefully. Inside, the invitation itself is a work of art. Gold foil lettering on handmade paper, Rebecca's engagement photo printed in soft sepia tones. She looks radiant, laughing at something Marcus whispered in her ear. They're standing in front of some mansion I don't recognize, probably one of Marcus's family properties. Mr. and Mrs. Robert Chen request the honor of your presence at the marriage of their daughter Rebecca Marie Chen. To Marcus James Thompson. The venue is Willow Creek Vineyard Estate. I looked it up once out of curiosity. The rental fee alone is $28,000, more than I need for Ethan's surgery. For one day, for one party. From the living room, I can hear Ethan practicing piano. He's working on a simple piece for Elise, but his fingers keep stumbling over the notes. Not because he doesn't know them, but because his hands shake when he gets tired. The heart condition affects his circulation, makes him weak when he exerts himself. He stops playing, and I hear his small footsteps padding toward the kitchen. Mom, I can't get the hard part right. Which hard part, baby? The fast notes in the middle. My hands feel funny. I set the invitation down and kneel beside him, taking his small hands in mine. His fingers are cold, slightly blue at the tips. Another symptom we're supposed to pretend is normal until we can afford to fix it. How about we practice just the slow parts today? The fast parts can wait. Okay. He leans against me, and I can feel how thin he's gotten. Mom, why do my hands get cold when I play? Your heart is just working extra hard right now. Remember what Dr. Martinez said? After your surgery, everything will work better. When do I get my surgery? The question I dread every single day. When, Mom? When will I feel better? When can I run around like other kids? When will my hands stop turning blue? Soon, sweetheart. Very soon. He nods and goes back to the piano, playing the slow, gentle parts of the song. Each note sounds like a promise I don't know how to keep. I pick up the wedding invitation again. $28,000 for the venue, $12,000 for flowers, $8,000 for Rebecca's dress, $15,000 for the wedding planner, $5,000 for the photographer, $3,000 for the vintage car rental. I'm holding $71,000 worth of one day in my hands, and my parents can't find $18,000 to save their grandson's life. For the first time since this nightmare started, I let myself feel the full weight of what's happening, not just the financial stress or the medical fear, but the deeper truth underneath it all. My parents chose Rebecca's happiness over Ethan's life. They didn't hesitate to liquidate their future for her perfect day, but they won't sacrifice one luxury to give their grandson a future at all. I sit in my quiet kitchen, listening to my son play piano with hands that shouldn't be cold, staring at an invitation to a party that costs more than his surgery. And I make a decision. I'm done being the responsible one who figures everything out quietly. It's time for everyone to see exactly what they've chosen. Sarah, oh my God, I'm so glad you called me back. I have the most amazing news about the wedding favors. Rebecca's voice bubbles through my phone like champagne, effervescent and completely disconnected from reality. I'm standing in my kitchen at 7 in the morning, still in yesterday's scrubs, watching Ethan eat cereal with hands that shake slightly when he lifts the spoon. Rebecca, I didn't call you back, you called me. Whatever. Listen, Marcus's mom found this incredible chocolatier in Belgium who makes custom wedding favors. Each one is hand-painted with our initials and costs $12. But Sarah, they're like tiny works of art. We're ordering 300 of them. $3,600 for chocolates that people will eat in 30 seconds. I close my eyes and count to 5. That sounds lovely, Rebecca. Right? And the florist called yesterday with the most gorgeous idea for the altar arrangements. We can add white orchids imported from Thailand for just 8,000 more. Marcus says it's worth it because the photos will be stunning. Just 8,000 more. The casual way she tosses around numbers that would change my son's life makes my chest tight. Rebecca, can I ask you something? Of course. What's up? Do you remember Ethan needs heart surgery? The silence stretches for exactly 3 seconds. I can almost hear her brain switching gears from wedding planning to the inconvenience of real life. Oh, right. How's he doing with all that? All that. My son's heart condition is all that. He's not doing well. The surgery is in 6 weeks, and I still don't have the money. Oh, Sarah, I'm sorry. That must be stressful. Stressful. Like forgetting to pick up dry cleaning or running late for an appointment. I was wondering if maybe you could talk to Mom and Dad about helping. They said they can't afford it because of wedding expenses, but, Sarah, you're being so dramatic. It's just surgery. I only get married once. The words hit me like a physical slap. I lean against my kitchen counter, watching Ethan struggle to finish his breakfast before school. It's not just surgery, Rebecca. If Ethan doesn't get this operation, his heart will fail. Well, obviously he'll get it. You always figure these things out. What if I can't figure it out this time? You will. You're like super responsible and stuff. Besides, I can't exactly ask Mom and Dad to cancel my wedding for a medical thing, can I? A medical thing? My son's life is a medical thing. I'm not asking you to cancel your wedding. I'm asking for $18,000 to save Ethan's life. Sarah, $18,000? Do you know what $18,000 could buy for my wedding? That's like the entire floral budget. I hang up before I say something I can't take back. 20 minutes later, my mother calls. Sarah, Rebecca told me you called her upset about money. I called her asking for help saving her nephew's life. Now, don't be dramatic. We all want what's best for Ethan. Do you? Of course we do. But Sarah, you have to understand our position. We've already committed to Rebecca's special day. We can't just back out of contracts we've signed. You could take out another loan. We've already extended ourselves financially. Surely the hospital has payment plans. They do. A 5-year payment plan at 18% interest that I can't afford. Well, maybe you could pick up more shifts. I'm already working 70 hours a week. Or maybe ask David for help. David has a new family. He's not going to help. Sarah, I know this is hard, but everything will work out. It always does. How? How will it work out if I don't have $18,000 in 6 weeks? God provides, honey. Have faith. God provides, but apparently only for wedding dresses and Belgian chocolates. After she hangs up, I sit in my car outside Ethan's school, trying to compose myself before work. My phone buzzes with a text from my father. Saw an article about a surprise honeymoon upgrade for Rebecca and Marcus. Thought you'd want to know we're planning something special for them. $15,000 for a luxury suite in Tuscany. Rebecca deserves this happiness after all her hard work planning the wedding. I stare at the text until the words blur together. $15,000. The exact amount I need to cover Ethan's remaining medical costs. I call him immediately. Dad, I just got your text about the honeymoon upgrade. Isn't it wonderful? Rebecca's going to be so surprised. That's $15,000. I know. Marcus's family suggested it, and we thought it was a perfect wedding gift. Dad, that's exactly what I need for Ethan's surgery. That's different, Sarah. Rebecca deserves this happiness. And Ethan deserves to live. Don't be manipulative. This is Rebecca's time. Manipulative. I'm being manipulative by wanting my son's heart to work properly. So you have $15,000 for a honeymoon, but not $18,000 for your grandson's heart surgery? Sarah, those are completely different things. How are they different? One is a celebration of love, and the other is just a medical procedure. Just a medical procedure. My father just called his grandson's life-saving surgery just a medical procedure. I have to go. Sarah, don't be upset. You know we love Ethan. Do you? I hang up and sit in the school parking lot, watching other parents drop off their healthy children. Children whose grandparents would mortgage their houses to save their lives. Children whose aunts wouldn't call life-saving surgery dramatic. For the first time since this nightmare began, I understand something with perfect clarity. I'm alone in this fight, completely, utterly alone. But maybe that's exactly what I need to be. Aunt Sarah, look at all the pretty lights. Ethan's voice is full of wonder as we walk into the reception venue at Willow Creek Vineyard. The place looks like something from a fairy tale, crystal chandeliers hanging from wooden beams, thousands of white roses cascading down marble columns, candles flickering on every surface. It's beautiful. It's also obscene. I'm wearing a navy blue dress I bought at Target 3 years ago, the only formal thing in my closet that still fits. Ethan is in his school clothes, khakis and a polo shirt because I couldn't afford a new outfit for him. Nobody seems to notice. They're all too busy staring at the ice sculptures. There are 3 of them. Swans carved from blocks of ice, each one the size of a small car, positioned around a fountain that shoots champagne instead of water. The ice sculptures alone probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. Mom, can I try the fancy water? That's champagne, baby. Not for kids. Oh, can I have regular water? I find a server carrying silver trays of crystal glasses. Even the water glasses are rented crystal, the kind that makes a perfect chime when you tap them. Ethan holds his carefully with both hands, and I notice his fingers are already getting cold from the air conditioning. Rebecca looks radiant in her $8,000 dress, gliding around the reception like she's floating on air. Marcus seems genuinely happy, smiling and laughing with their guests. I try to be happy for them. I really do. But every time I see another expensive detail, I think about Ethan's medical bills sitting on my kitchen counter. The flowers are everywhere. Not just roses, orchids, peonies, hydrangeas, flowers I don't even recognize, all arranged in towering centerpieces that block half the guests from seeing each other. $12,000 worth of flowers that will be thrown away tomorrow. Sarah, there you are. My mother appears beside me, radiant in a mother-of-the-bride dress that cost more than my car payment. She's glowing with pride, basking in compliments from other guests about the wedding's extravagance. Isn't it beautiful? The florist outdid herself. It's very impressive. Marcus's family is just thrilled. His mother said she's never seen such attention to detail. I nod and smile because that's what's expected. Ethan tugs on my hand. Mom, I'm getting tired. Can we sit down? Of course, sweetie. I find our assigned table, table 12, near the back, furthest from the head table where the immediate family sits. Ethan climbs into his chair and rests his head on his arms. 5 minutes of standing and walking has exhausted him. The dinner is 7 courses. 7 courses. Each one presented by servers wearing white gloves. Each one paired with a different wine. I watch the servers pour vintage champagne that costs more per bottle than I spend on groceries in a week, and I think about the rice and beans Ethan and I ate for dinner last night. Mom, the music is really loud. The band my parents hired is a 12-piece orchestra. A 12-piece orchestra for a wedding reception. They're playing jazz standards while couples dance on a floor that was specially installed just for tonight. Do you want to step outside for some air? Yes, please. We walk to the terrace overlooking the vineyard. The view is stunning. Rolling hills covered in grapevines. The setting sun painting everything golden. It's the kind of place you see in movies about rich people. The kind of place that costs $28,000 to rent for one day. Through the windows, I watch my parents mingling with Marcus's family. They're in their element, playing the role of generous parents who spared no expense for their daughter's happiness. And they're good at it. No one would ever guess they refused to help save their grandson's life. Mrs. Chen, what a magnificent celebration. I turn to see Marcus's mother, Eleanor Thompson, approaching us with a glass of champagne in her hand. She's elegant in the way only old money can be. Understated jewelry, perfect posture, a smile that's warm but reserved. Your parents have truly outdone themselves. The generosity, the sacrifice. It's extraordinary. You must be so proud of how they've put family first. The words hit me like ice water. I watch through the window as my mother accepts another compliment about the wedding's extravagance, beaming as someone praises her devotion to family. They certainly made Rebecca's day special, I managed to say. Special? This is beyond special. This is the kind of wedding that becomes a family legend. The love and commitment your parents have shown, well, it says everything about their values. Their values, their commitment to family. Ethan leans against me, and I can feel how tired he is. Just 3 hours at this party and he's completely drained. In 6 weeks, if I can't find the money, his little heart will give up completely. Is this your son? What a handsome young man. This is Ethan. Say hello, sweetheart. Hello, Ethan whispers, too tired to lift his head. He's a bit tired, I explain. We should probably head home soon. Of course, children need their rest. Eleanor drifts back toward the reception, and I'm left standing on the terrace with my exhausted son, watching my parents celebrate spending $250,000 on one day, while their grandson's heart fails a little more each day. Sometimes the people who claim to love you most are the ones who reveal their true priorities when it matters. Mom, can we go home now? In a few minutes, baby. I need to make a phone call first. I pull out my phone and scroll through my contacts until I find the number I'm looking for. Dr. Martinez gave it to me months ago. Said to call if I ever needed help exploring options. What kind of phone call? The kind that's going to change everything. I dial the number and wait for someone to answer. Through the window I can see my parents laughing with their guests, toasting Rebecca's happiness with champagne that costs more per glass than Ethan's daily medications. Hello, this is Sarah Chen. I'd like to discuss setting up a medical fundraising campaign. Ethan looks up at me with curious eyes, and I squeeze his cold hand. Yes, I'll hold. It's time for everyone to see exactly what my family chose. Mrs. Chen? This is Eleanor Thompson. I hope I'm not calling too late. It's 9:30 on a Tuesday night, 3 days after the wedding. I'm sitting at my kitchen table, surrounded by medical bills and payment plan documents that still don't add up to a solution. Mrs. Thompson, no, it's fine. Is everything okay? Please, call me Eleanor. And yes, everything is fine. But I wanted to speak with you about something that's been troubling me since the wedding. I can hear classical music playing softly in the background, the kind of refined atmosphere that comes with generational wealth. Eleanor Thompson lives in a world where problems get solved with phone calls, not payment plans. What can I help you with? It's about your son, Ethan. Marcus mentioned he has a heart condition that requires surgery. My stomach drops. I didn't tell Marcus about Ethan's condition. The only way he could know is if someone in my family mentioned it, probably as an afterthought. Yes, he does. And your family isn't able to help with the medical expenses? The question hangs in the air like smoke. I could lie, make excuses, protect my parents' image the way I always have. But I'm tired of protecting people who won't protect my son. No, they can't help. They spent everything on Rebecca's wedding. The silence on Eleanor's end stretches for several seconds. I can almost hear her processing this information, putting pieces together. I see. Marcus told me the surgery is quite expensive. $45,000. Insurance covers most of it, but I still need $18,000. And your parents spent how much on the wedding? $230,000. Another silence. This one feels different, charged with understanding. Mrs. Chen, Sarah, I'm going to be very direct with you. My family would like to help with Ethan's surgery. The words hit me like a physical force. I have to sit down even though I'm already sitting. I don't know what to say. You don't need to say anything yet. But I do have one condition. Of course. Anything. I need to understand exactly what happened here. I need to know who was asked for help and what their responses were. My family doesn't give money blindly, even for good causes. We need to understand the full picture. Something shifts inside me, a feeling I haven't experienced in years. For the first time since this nightmare started, someone is asking the right questions. Someone wants to know the truth. I can provide that information. Good. Can you come to our house tomorrow evening? Bring Ethan if you'd like. Marcus will be there, and we can discuss everything properly. After I hang up, I sit in my kitchen staring at the pile of bills, and I feel something I haven't felt in decades. Power. Not over anyone else, but over my own situation. For 34 years, I've accepted my role as the invisible daughter, the one who handles problems quietly, the one who doesn't make waves. But Ethan deserves better than invisible grandparents and an invisible mother. I spend the next day creating a document I never thought I'd need, a detailed accounting of every conversation with my parents, every refusal, every excuse. I include dates, exact quotes, and context. It reads like a case study in emotional neglect. Phone call, March 15th. We simply can't afford to help with Ethan's surgery right now. You know how tight money is after Rebecca's wedding expenses. Text message, March 18th. Saw an article about a surprise honeymoon upgrade for Rebecca and Marcus. $15,000 for a luxury suite in Tuscany. Rebecca deserves this happiness after all her hard work planning the wedding. Phone call, March 19th. That's different, Sarah. Rebecca deserves this happiness. The Thompson house is everything you'd expect from old Portland money. Brick and ivy, leaded glass windows. The kind of understated elegance that whispers wealth instead of shouting it. Eleanor greets us at the door herself. No staff, no pretense. Sarah, welcome. And you must be Ethan. Hi, Ethan says quietly, staying close to my side. The living room is warm and comfortable, filled with family photos and well-worn furniture that probably costs more than my car. Marcus is there with Rebecca, who looks nervous in a way I've never seen before. Sarah, Marcus says, standing when we enter, thank you for coming. Eleanor gestures for us to sit. I've reviewed the information you sent me, Sarah. It's quite illuminating. She opens a folder on the coffee table. Inside is my documentation, printed and organized with additional notes in her neat handwriting. Your parents spent $12,000 on flowers that lasted 3 days, but they couldn't find $18,000 to save their grandson's life. Eleanor, it's not that simple. Rebecca starts. Actually, Rebecca, it is exactly that simple. Eleanor's voice is calm but firm. Your parents paid $15,000 for a honeymoon upgrade, the exact amount Sarah needed for Ethan's remaining medical costs. The room falls silent. Rebecca looks at Marcus, then at me, then down at her hands. I've spoken with several board members at Portland Children's Hospital. Eleanor continues. They confirmed that Ethan's surgery is not experimental or optional. It's life-saving. Without it, his prognosis is quite poor. Ethan is sitting beside me, playing quietly with a toy Eleanor gave him. He doesn't understand that the adults in this beautiful room are discussing whether he gets to grow up. Our family has decided to cover the full cost of Ethan's surgery, plus any additional medical expenses that arise during his recovery. I feel tears start to form, but I blink them back. I need to stay composed. However, Eleanor continues, we want our contribution to be public knowledge. We believe in transparency when it comes to family obligations. Rebecca's face goes pale. What do you mean, public knowledge? I mean that when people ask how Ethan's surgery was funded, Sarah will tell them the truth, that his grandparents chose wedding expenses over his medical care, and that strangers stepped in to save his life. The power dynamic in the room shifts so completely that I can feel it like a change in air pressure. For the first time in my adult life, I'm not the one asking for help. I'm the one people want to help. When can we schedule the surgery? I ask. I'll have our family physician call tomorrow to expedite everything, Eleanor says. Ethan will have his operation within 2 weeks. As we leave the Thompson house, I feel something I'd forgotten existed. My own worth, not as the responsible daughter or the invisible sister, but as a mother who fought for her son and won. Sometimes the people who claim they can't help are simply choosing not to. But sometimes the right people are waiting to say yes. Sarah, we need to talk to you about something very concerning. My mother's voice is tight with barely controlled panic. It's been 3 days since my meeting with the Thompson family, and I'm sitting in my kitchen making Ethan's lunch when my phone rings at 7 in the morning. What's wrong, Mom? Marcus's mother called us last night. She said they're paying for Ethan's surgery. There it is. The reason for the early morning call, the strained voice, the word concerning. Not relief that her grandson will live. Not gratitude that someone stepped up when she wouldn't. Concern about what people will think. That's right. Eleanor Thompson is covering all of Ethan's medical expenses. Sarah, how could you go to strangers about family business? Family business. My son's heart condition is family business that my family refused to handle. They're not strangers anymore, Mom. They're the people who are saving Ethan's life. But what did you tell them about us? The question I've been waiting for. Not how is Ethan, or when is the surgery, but what did you tell them about us? I told them the truth. The silence stretches between us like a canyon. I can hear my father's voice in the background, muffled but agitated. Sarah, you have to understand how this looks. Marcus's family must think we're terrible people. Are you? What kind of question is that? A fair one. Are you terrible people for spending $230,000 on a wedding while your grandson needs heart surgery? Sarah, Those are completely different situations. How are they different? My father takes the phone. His voice is controlled, but I can hear the anger underneath. Sarah, we're coming over. We need to discuss this face to face. I'll be here. They arrive 30 minutes later, both dressed like they're going to church or a funeral. My mother is carrying her purse clutched against her chest like armor. My father's jaw is set in the way that used to intimidate me when I was a child. Where's Ethan? My mother asks, looking around nervously. At school, where 8-year-olds are supposed to be on Wednesday mornings. I've prepared for this conversation. On my kitchen table, I've laid out a single sheet of paper. It's an invoice I created last night, itemized and precise. Sit down, I want to show you something. They remain standing, so I begin reading aloud. Wedding venue rental $28,000. Ethan's cardiology consultations $2,400 unpaid. My mother's face goes pale. Sarah, what is this? Wedding flowers, $12,000. Ethan's pre-surgery medications, $800 unpaid. Sarah, stop this. Reception wine and champagne, $18,000. Ethan's echocardiogram, $1,500 unpaid. My father reaches for the paper, but I hold it away from him. Ice sculptures, $4,000. Ethan's chest x-rays, $300 unpaid. Sarah, you're embarrassing the family. We did what we could. The words hit me like a slap, but this time they don't sting. They reveal something. I'm embarrassing the family? By getting help for my son's heart surgery? By airing our private family matters to outsiders? Mom, you made this public the moment you chose Rebecca's ice sculptures over Ethan's life. My father steps forward, his voice dropping to the tone he used when I was in trouble as a child. Sarah, you will call Eleanor Thompson and tell her there's been a misunderstanding. You'll explain that we offered to help but you were too proud to accept. For 34 years, that voice would have made me apologize and comply. Today, it just sounds like an old man who's lost control of his narrative. No. Excuse me? I said no. I won't lie to protect your reputation. Sarah, think about what you're doing. These people are judging us based on incomplete information. Actually, they have very complete information. Eleanor asked for documentation of every conversation we had about Ethan's surgery. I provided it. My mother sinks into a chair, her face gray. You documented our private conversations? I documented your refusals to help save your grandson's life. Every excuse, every deflection, every time you chose wedding expenses over medical expenses. Sarah, that's not fair. Fair? Mom, let me read you one more comparison. Rebecca's wedding dress, $8,000. The amount I asked you for to save Ethan's life, $18,000. You found $8,000 for a dress she'll wear once, but you couldn't find $18,000 to fix his heart. The kitchen falls silent except for the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of traffic. My parents look like they're seeing me for the first time, and maybe they are. This isn't invisible, accommodating Sarah. This is someone they don't recognize. Sarah, this is someone they don't recognize. The Thompson family knows exactly what kind of grandparents you are, I continue. They know you spent $15,000 on a honeymoon upgrade the same week I begged you for help. They know you chose Belgian chocolates for wedding favors over your grandson's medication. My mother starts crying, but they're not tears of remorse. They're tears of humiliation. How are we supposed to face Marcus's family at holidays? At family gatherings? The same way I've faced every family gathering for the past 6 months, knowing exactly where your priorities lie. My father tries one more time to reassert control. Sarah, we're your parents. We deserve your respect. You were my parents. Now you're just the people who chose party planning over their grandson's life. I stand up and walk to the door, holding it open. Ethan's surgery is scheduled for next Friday. Eleanor Thompson will be there. I will be there. You're welcome to come, but only if you're ready to face the family that actually showed up when he needed them. They leave without another word, and I watch them drive away in the car they almost sold to pay for Rebecca's wedding photography. For the first time in my adult life, I'm not the one apologizing. They are, and it feels like justice. Sarah, I heard the most wonderful news about Ethan's surgery being covered. How did you manage to arrange that? Mrs. Patterson from church catches me in the grocery store parking lot on Thursday afternoon. She's genuinely happy for us, her face glowing with the kind of relief you see when a community crisis gets resolved. The Thompson family stepped in to help. I say, loading grocery bags into my car. The Thompsons? Marcus's parents? Yes. When they learned about Ethan's condition, they immediately offered to cover all his medical expenses. Mrs. Patterson's smile falters slightly. She's putting pieces together, the same way everyone in our small community has been doing for the past week. That's very generous of them. I'm sure your parents are grateful. My parents weren't able to help. They'd already committed their resources to Rebecca's wedding. I don't say it with malice or bitterness. I just state the fact and let it hang in the air between us. Mrs. Patterson's expression shifts from confusion to understanding to something that looks like horror. Oh, I see. She doesn't ask follow-up questions. She doesn't need to. The math is simple enough for anyone to calculate. This same conversation has happened 12 times in the past week. At the hospital, at Ethan's school, at the coffee shop where I grab my morning caffeine before double shifts. People hear about Ethan's surgery being funded by strangers and naturally assume there's a story behind it. There is, and I tell it truthfully every single time. I don't gossip, I don't embellish, I don't attack my parents' character or make emotional appeals. I simply answer the questions people ask with facts that speak for themselves. Yes, Ethan needed life-saving heart surgery. No, my parents couldn't help financially. Yes, they'd spent their savings on Rebecca's wedding. No, I don't blame them for their choices. That last part is the most devastating truth of all. I genuinely don't blame them. I simply understand them now. My phone buzzes as I'm unloading groceries. It's Rebecca, and she sounds panicked. Sarah, we need to talk. Can you come over tonight? I'm working a double shift tonight. What's wrong? Marcus's grandmother called his mother today. She wanted to know more about Ethan's medical situation and why his grandparents couldn't help. I set a bag of groceries on my kitchen counter and wait for Rebecca to continue. Eleanor told her everything about the wedding costs, about Mom and Dad refusing to help, about the Thompson family having to step in. Okay, Sarah, Marcus's grandmother is questioning whether her family should be associated with ours. She's talking about moral character and family values. What does that have to do with me? You have to fix this. Call Eleanor and tell her there was a misunderstanding. Tell her Mom and Dad offered to help, but you turned them down. I can't do that, Rebecca. Why not? Because it's not true. The silence stretches between us for several seconds. I can hear Marcus's voice in the background, but I can't make out the words. Sarah, this is affecting my marriage. Marcus's family is questioning his judgment for marrying into a family that would choose a party over a child's life. Maybe they should question that. What is wrong with you? These are our parents we're talking about. These are the parents who spent $15,000 on your honeymoon upgrade, the same week they refused to help save their grandson's life. That's different. How is it different, Rebecca? She can't answer because there is no answer. There's no moral framework where ice sculptures matter more than insulin, where wedding photography matters more than cardiology. Sarah, please, I'm begging you, just call Eleanor and smooth this over. What exactly would you like me to smooth over? The fact that Ethan nearly died while you were choosing between imported orchids and domestic roses? You're being cruel. I'm being honest. For the first time in my adult life, I'm being completely honest about what happened in our family. After I hang up, I sit in my quiet kitchen and think about my parents' reputation in our community. They've spent 40 years building an image of themselves as devoted family people, active in their church, generous with their time and resources. That image is crumbling now, not because of anything I've done, but because of what they chose not to do. Pastor Williams called yesterday to ask about Ethan's surgery. When he learned the Thompson family was funding it, he asked the obvious question, why weren't the grandparents helping? I gave him the same truthful, measured response I give everyone else. He thanked me for the information and hung up quickly. The church board met last night. My father has been a deacon for 15 years, responsible for organizing charity drives and community outreach. It's hard to lead a ministry dedicated to helping families in crisis when you've publicly chosen party planning over your grandson's life. 3 families have called this week to express their support for Ethan and their gratitude to the Thompson family for stepping in. Each conversation starts with genuine concern and ends with uncomfortable understanding. I just can't imagine, Mrs. Rodriguez said yesterday. If it were my grandson, I would have mortgaged my house. Of course you would, I replied. Most grandparents would. I don't attack my parents. I don't need to. I simply agree with people's natural instincts about family priorities, and the contrast becomes clear. When Dr. Martinez called to confirm Ethan's surgery details, he mentioned how impressed he was with the Thompson family's immediate response. "It's rare to see such quick action from extended family," he said. "Usually grandparents are the first to step up in these situations. The Thompson family isn't extended family. They're my sister's new in-laws. And your parents? They weren't able to help financially. I see. Well, thank goodness for the Thompsons." Yes, thank goodness for the Thompsons. Each conversation is a small revelation for someone in my community. Each question answered honestly is another crack in the image my parents have carefully constructed. I'm not destroying their reputation. I'm simply allowing their choices to speak for themselves. And their choices are speaking loud enough for everyone to hear. The beautiful thing about truth is that it doesn't need embellishment or emotion to be devastating. It just needs to be stated clearly, without apology or explanation. My parents chose Belgian chocolates over their grandson's heartbeat. That sentence contains all the moral inventory anyone needs to make their own judgments. I'm done protecting people who wouldn't protect my son. The truth is protection enough. Sarah, dear, how is little Ethan doing after his surgery? Aunt Linda's voice carries across my mother's living room during what was supposed to be a quiet family dinner to celebrate Easter. She's genuinely concerned, the way family should be when a child has been through a major medical procedure. "He's recovering beautifully," I say, cutting Ethan's ham into smaller pieces. "The doctors are amazed at how well the surgery went." Thank goodness. I was so worried when I heard about his heart condition. These things can be so expensive. The room goes quiet. My mother stops arranging flowers in her vase. My father lowers his newspaper. Rebecca freezes with her fork halfway to her mouth. The cost was significant, I agree. $45,000 total. Goodness. I hope insurance covered most of it. Insurance covered about 60%. We still needed $18,000. Uncle Jim looks up from his plate. That's a lot of money. Good thing you had family to help out. The silence that follows is so complete I can hear the ice maker cycling in the kitchen. Actually, my parents weren't able to help. They'd already committed their resources to Rebecca's wedding. The words land like stones in still water, creating ripples that spread across the entire room. Aunt Linda's fork stops moving. Uncle Jim sets down his glass. Cousin Michelle looks from me to my parents and back again. The Thompson family stepped in. I continue calmly. Marcus's parents covered all of Ethan's medical expenses when they learned the situation. Marcus's parents? Aunt Linda's voice is carefully neutral, but I can see her processing the implications. Yes, when Eleanor Thompson discovered that Ethan's grandparents couldn't help because they'd spent their savings on wedding expenses, she immediately arranged to cover everything. My mother finally finds her voice. "Sarah, I don't think this is appropriate dinner conversation." "You're right, Mom. Medical crises shouldn't have to be dinner conversation. They should be family priorities." Uncle Jim clears his throat. "How much did the wedding cost, if you don't mind me asking?" $230,000, I say before anyone can deflect. The number hangs in the air like smoke. I watch my extended family do the math, the same calculation everyone in our community has been doing for the past 2 weeks. $230,000 for a wedding, but no money for Ethan's heart surgery? Cousin Michelle's voice is barely a whisper. "The wedding was planned first," my father says defensively. "Dad, Ethan was born 8 years ago. His heart condition has been known for 6 months. The wedding was planned after his diagnosis." Aunt Linda sets down her fork completely. "Robert, Janet, surely you could have postponed some of the wedding expenses. It's complicated, Linda. You don't understand the commitments we'd made. I understand that my great-nephew needed heart surgery, and his grandparents chose party planning instead. The dinner dissolves after that. People make polite excuses and leave early. As I'm helping Ethan with his jacket, I hear Aunt Linda talking quietly to Uncle Jim in the hallway. $230,000, Jim, for one day, while that little boy's heart was failing. This scene plays out differently every few days now. At Rebecca's book club, someone mentions the beautiful wedding photos posted on social media. Inevitably, someone else asks how the family managed such an elaborate celebration, and Rebecca has to explain that her parents liquidated their retirement savings. "How romantic," her friend Jessica says. Your parents must have saved for years to give you such a perfect day. Actually, they spent everything they had, plus they took out loans. Wow, that's incredible dedication. Then someone mentions Ethan's surgery, because good news travels in small communities. When they learn that strangers had to fund his medical care while his grandparents were paying for ice sculptures, the conversation shifts. I don't understand, Jessica says carefully. Your parents had money for a $250,000 wedding, but couldn't help with their grandson's heart surgery? Rebecca can't answer because there is no answer that doesn't make her parents look exactly like what they are. The wedding photos that were supposed to be beautiful memories now carry the weight of moral questions. Every gorgeous detail represents a choice made over Ethan's life. The vintage car rental that cost $3,000 while his medications sat unpaid. The hand calligraphy invitations that cost more than his echocardiogram. Sarah, I need to talk to you. Rebecca corners me in the hospital parking lot after Ethan's follow-up appointment. She looks like she hasn't slept in days, and I suspect she hasn't. What's wrong? Marcus is asking questions I can't answer. What kind of questions? About our family's priorities. About how I could accept such an expensive wedding, knowing Ethan needed surgery. I lean against my car and wait for her to continue. He asked me how I could enjoy Belgian chocolates at my reception, knowing my nephew couldn't afford his heart medication. What did you tell him? I told him I didn't know Ethan's situation was that serious. But you did know, Rebecca. We talked about it at Sunday dinner 6 months ago. I thought you'd figure it out. You always figure things out. I did figure it out. The Thompson family helped me figure it out. She starts crying then. Not the pretty tears of a bride, but the messy, ugly tears of someone facing the truth about themselves. Sarah, I think Marcus is having second thoughts about our marriage. His family keeps asking how we could have celebrated while Ethan was dying. Were you celebrating while Ethan was dying? It wasn't like that. What was it like? She can't answer because we both know exactly what it was like. It was choosing imported flowers over insulin, choosing vintage champagne over cardiology, choosing social media photos over a child's life. The Thompson family is posting updates about Ethan's recovery on Facebook, Rebecca continues. Everyone can see how grateful they are to help, how they call him their honorary grandson. Every post makes our family look worse. I don't respond because there's nothing to say. The Thompson family isn't trying to make anyone look bad. They're simply being grandparents to a child whose biological grandparents chose otherwise. Can't you ask them to stop posting about it? Why would I do that? Because it's hurting our family's reputation. No, Rebecca. Your family's choices hurt your family's reputation. The Thompson family's posts just document the consequences. I'm not seeking revenge. I don't need to. I'm simply allowing the truth to exist without cushioning or explanation. When people ask about Ethan's recovery, I tell them who helped and who didn't. When people see the wedding photos, I let them draw their own conclusions about the priorities those photos represent. The beautiful thing about justice is that it doesn't require anger or cruelty. It just requires truth and time. And time is revealing everything my family chose to hide behind designer dresses and ice sculptures. The wedding photos will always be beautiful, but they'll also always be evidence of the day my parents chose aesthetic perfection over their grandson's heartbeat. That's not revenge. That's just reality. Sarah, we need to discuss your father's situation at the church. Pastor Williams calls me on a Tuesday evening while I'm helping Ethan with his homework. His voice carries the careful tone of someone navigating sensitive family politics. What situation, Pastor Williams? There are questions being raised about his position as deacon. Some board members are concerned about the message it sends to have leadership who couldn't prioritize their grandson's medical emergency. I set down Ethan's pencil and walk to the kitchen, where I can speak privately. I see. The church has organized 17 medical fundraisers in the past 5 years. We've raised over $200,000 for families facing health crises. Some board members feel it's hypocritical to have a deacon who chose wedding expenses over his grandson's heart surgery. What are you asking me to do about it? Nothing. I'm just informing you that your father has been asked to step down from his leadership position. After I hang up, I sit in my quiet kitchen and think about the ripple effects of truth. My parents built their reputation on being pillars of the community, people others looked to for moral guidance and practical wisdom. That reputation is crumbling, not because of anything I've said or done, but because of what they chose not to do. Mom, who was that on the phone? Pastor Williams. He was giving me an update about church business. Oh, can you help me with this math problem? I keep getting confused. I return to the dining room, where Ethan is working on multiplication tables. His color is good, his energy steady. The surgery was a complete success, funded by people who understood that children's lives matter more than adult celebrations. My phone buzzes with a text from cousin Michelle. Called to check on you after Sunday dinner. Aunt Linda told me more about what happened with Mom and Dad. I had no idea how they've treated you over the years. I'm so sorry we all just stood by and watched. The family dynamics that seemed normal to me for 34 years are finally becoming visible to others. The way my achievements were minimized while Rebecca's were celebrated. The way my problems were dismissed while hers required immediate family mobilization. The way I was expected to be grateful for scraps, while she was showered with abundance. I always wondered why you seemed so distant at family gatherings, Michelle continues in another text. Now I understand you weren't distant. You were invisible. 3 more relatives call over the next 2 days. Aunt Linda, Uncle Jim, even my grandmother who's 86 and doesn't usually get involved in family drama. Sarah, dear, I need to tell you something that's been bothering me since Easter dinner. Grandma's voice is shaky but determined. What is it, Grandma? I gave your mother $5,000 last year to help with Rebecca's wedding. If I had known about Ethan's situation, I would have given that money to you instead. You didn't know, Grandma. It's not your fault. But I should have known. Your parents should have told the whole family that their grandson needed help. Instead, they told us about flower arrangements and dress fittings. They made their choices. Yes, they did. And I'm making mine now. I'm setting up a college fund for Ethan. It'll have $25,000 in it by the time he graduates high school. The support comes from unexpected places. My father's business partner calls to ask about Ethan's recovery and mentions that several clients have been asking questions about Dad's judgment. Bob's always been good with other people's money, he says carefully. But some folks are wondering how someone can give sound financial advice when he chose party planning over his grandson's medical emergency. What kind of questions? The Hendersons were thinking about having Bob manage their retirement portfolio. When they heard about Ethan's situation, they decided to go with someone else. They said they needed an advisor who understood real priorities. My father has spent 30 years building a client base that trusts him with their financial futures. That trust is evaporating as people learn about his personal choices. The Williamses asked me directly whether Bob could be trusted to make sound decisions under pressure, his partner continues. I didn't know what to tell them. Tell them the truth. He spent $250,000 on a party while his grandson needed heart surgery. That's his decision-making under pressure. The role reversal is complete now. For the first time in my adult life, I'm the one receiving support while my parents become isolated. People who used to seek their advice now question their judgment. Community members who once admired their generosity now understand their selective compassion. Mrs. Patterson stops me at the grocery store again, but this time she has different news. Sarah, I wanted you to know that several of us have been talking about your situation. Oh? We're starting a medical assistance fund at the church specifically for situations like Ethan's. We want to make sure no child in our community ever goes without needed medical care, because their family can't afford it. That's wonderful, Mrs. Patterson. We're calling it the Ethan Chen Medical Emergency Fund. We hope that's all right with you. A fund named after my son, created because my parents' choices opened people's eyes to a gap in their community's safety net. Even in recovery, Ethan is still helping other children. I think that's perfect. The isolation my parents are experiencing isn't cruel or vindictive. It's simply the natural consequence of their choices becoming public knowledge. When you choose aesthetic perfection over a child's life, people adjust their opinion of your character accordingly. Rebecca calls less frequently now. When she does, the conversations are strained and brief. How's Ethan doing? He's doing great. The Thompson family took him to the zoo last weekend. Eleanor says he's the grandson they never had. That's nice. The silence that follows is filled with everything she can't say. How her fairy tale wedding is overshadowed by the knowledge that it came at her nephew's expense. How her marriage struggles under the weight of moral questions she can't answer. How every beautiful wedding photo now carries the shadow of what was sacrificed to create them. Sarah, do you think people will ever forgive our parents? I think people will remember what they chose when it mattered most. Whether they forgive that is up to them. And you? Will you ever forgive them? I don't need to forgive them, Rebecca. I just need to protect my son from people who would choose ice sculptures over his heartbeat. The truth doesn't require forgiveness. It just requires acknowledgement. And finally, after 34 years of being invisible, I'm surrounded by people who see me clearly. People who understand that a mother fighting for her child's life deserves support, not excuses. People who recognize that some choices reveal character so completely that they can't be explained away or forgotten. My parents chose their legacy when they chose Rebecca's wedding over Ethan's surgery. Now they get to live with it. Sarah, we need to talk. Your father and I have been discussing Ethan's situation, and we want to make things right. My mother's voice carries the careful tone of someone who's practiced this conversation multiple times. It's 3 months after Ethan's surgery, and I'm sitting in my living room, watching him play with the new tablet Eleanor bought him for his recovery. What did you want to discuss? We've decided to contribute to Ethan's ongoing medical expenses, his follow-up appointments, medications, all of that. My father steps forward, his checkbook already in his hand like a prop in a play he's rehearsing. We can write you a check right now for $5,000, and we'll commit to covering his medical costs going forward. I set down my coffee cup and look at them both. They're dressed like they're going to court, formal and nervous, clutching their purse and checkbook like shields. Why now? Because we love Ethan, and we want to help. You've had 6 months to help Ethan. Why are you offering now? The silence stretches between us. We all know why they're here. My father lost 3 more clients this week. The church board formally asked him to step down. Rebecca's marriage is struggling under questions Marcus's family keeps asking. Sarah, we made mistakes, my mother says carefully. We're trying to fix them. What mistakes did you make? That we should have helped with the surgery. Why didn't you? We'd already committed the money to Rebecca's wedding. So you chose Rebecca's wedding over Ethan's life. It wasn't that simple. It was exactly that simple, Mom. You had $18,000 available for a honeymoon upgrade, but not for your grandson's heart surgery. My father tries to take control of the conversation. Sarah, we're here to make amends. We want to be part of Ethan's life going forward. What part of his life do you want to be part of? All of it. We want to be real grandparents to him. I look over at Ethan, who's completely absorbed in his tablet. He's coloring a digital picture of a heart, something his art therapy teacher suggested to help him process his medical experience. The heart he's coloring is healthy and strong, unlike the one he was born with. Ethan, do you remember Grandma and Grandpa Chen? He looks up briefly, his face blank. Not really. Do you remember them visiting you in the hospital after your surgery? No, but I remember Eleanor and Grandpa Bill. They brought me ice cream every day. Grandpa Bill is Eleanor's husband. Ethan calls him that naturally now, the way children do when adults show up consistently with love and attention. Ethan, Grandma and Grandpa Chen would like to spend more time with you. Would you like that? He shrugs, already turning back to his tablet. I guess, but can Eleanor come too? My parents' faces fall. Their grandson doesn't remember them, but he lights up when he talks about the people who were there when he needed them most. Sarah, we can fix this, my father says desperately. We can build a relationship with him. How? We'll take him places, buy him things, show him we care. You had 8 years to show him you cared. You had 6 months of medical appointments to show him you cared. You had a surgery date to show him you cared. We made a mistake. You made a choice. Every single time you chose Rebecca's wedding expenses over Ethan's medical needs, you made a choice. I pull out my phone and open my notes app, where I've been keeping track of something I call the real accounting. Do you want to know what your choices actually cost? Sarah, don't do this. Ethan asks me once a week why his grandparents don't love him like other kids' grandparents love them. That's what your wedding flowers cost. My mother starts crying, but I continue. He told his counselor that he must not be important, because his grandparents were too busy to help when he was sick. That's what your ice sculptures cost. Sarah, please stop. He draws pictures of Eleanor and Bill as his grandparents in school assignments. When his teacher asks about his biological grandparents, he says they live far away. That's what your vintage car rental cost. My father's checkbook is shaking in his hands. The Thompson family has attended every single one of his medical appointments since the surgery. They know his doctor's names, his medication schedule, his physical therapy goals. That's what being grandparents looks like. We can learn all of that. When, between your social events and your image management, Between your attempts to explain away your choices and your efforts to control the narrative, I stand up and walk to the window, looking out at the yard where Eleanor helped Ethan plant a small garden to celebrate his recovery. You want to know what else your choices cost? They cost me 34 years of believing I didn't matter. They cost me decades of accepting that my needs would always come second to Rebecca's wants. Sarah, you've always mattered to us. Have I? When was the last time you remembered my birthday without Rebecca reminding you? When was the last time you asked about my life without immediately changing the subject to Rebecca's latest drama? The questions hang in the air like accusations, because that's exactly what they are. When was the last time you supported my decisions instead of telling me I'd figure it out on my own? We raised you to be independent. You raised me to be invisible. There's a difference. My father makes one last attempt to salvage this conversation. Sarah, we're offering to help now. Doesn't that count for something? You're offering to help now because your reputation is ruined and your social standing is destroyed. You're not here because you love Ethan. You're here because the consequences of not loving him are finally affecting your lives. I return to my chair and look at both of them directly. The Thompson family didn't help Ethan to make themselves look good. They helped him because children's lives matter more than adult comfort. That's the difference between charity and love. So you're saying it's too late? We can never be part of his life? I'm saying that grandparents who choose wedding centerpieces over their grandson's heartbeat don't get to play grandparents when it becomes socially convenient. My mother tries one more manipulation. Sarah, this is destroying our family. No, Mom. You destroyed our family when you chose ice sculptures over insulin. I'm just letting everyone see what you chose. Ethan looks up from his tablet, sensing the tension in the room. Mom, are they leaving soon? Eleanor said. She'd call tonight to read me a story. Eleanor calls every night at 8 to read him a story. She's never missed a single night since his surgery. They're leaving now, sweetheart? My parents stand up slowly, defeated in a way I've never seen before. The checkbook goes back in my father's pocket, unused and unwanted. Sarah, if you ever change your mind, I won't. They walk to the door in silence, carrying the weight of choices they can never unmake and consequences they can never escape. The door closes behind them, and I hear Ethan humming softly as he colors his digital heart. Strong, healthy, and surrounded by people who proved their love when it mattered most. Money can't fix what they broke. Time can't undo what they chose. And I'm finally at peace with both of those truths. Mom, look how fast I can run now. Ethan takes off across the playground at full speed, his backpack bouncing as he races toward the monkey bars. 6 months ago, running 50 feet would have left him breathless and pale. Today he moves like any other 9-year-old boy, full of energy and life. Eleanor sits beside me on the park bench, watching him with the kind of pride that comes naturally to grandparents. She's never missed one of his school events, never forgotten a doctor's appointment, never treated his needs as inconvenient. He's grown 2 inches since the surgery, she says, consulting the small notebook where she tracks his progress. Dr. Martinez says his heart function is completely normal now. I know, sometimes I watch him playing and I can't believe how close we came to losing him. But you didn't lose him. That's what matters. Eleanor doesn't know how many nights I lay awake in those months before the surgery, listening to his labored breathing and wondering if each day might be his last. She doesn't know because I've never told her. Some burdens don't need to be shared, especially with people who've already given so much. Sarah, can I ask you something personal? Of course. Do you ever regret how things turned out with your parents? I watch Ethan swing across the monkey bars with steady, strong hands. His color is perfect, his energy endless. The Thompson family made this possible when my own family chose wedding favors over his future. No, I regret that it took a medical crisis for me to understand who they really are, but I don't regret the understanding itself. It must have been difficult, growing up feeling invisible. The difficult part wasn't growing up invisible. The difficult part was believing I deserved to be invisible. Eleanor nods quietly. She understands family dynamics in ways that come from generations of wealth and the social complexities that accompany it. She knows the difference between being overlooked and being dismissed. Ethan will never feel invisible in our family. I know, that's why I'm not bitter about my parents. Ethan has something I never had. Grandparents who show up when it matters. My phone buzzes with a text from Rebecca. Her messages have become infrequent and brief, usually questions about Ethan's health or awkward attempts to maintain some connection. How is Ethan doing? Marcus's grandmother is asking about him again. I show the text to Eleanor, who reads it with raised eyebrows. Marcus's grandmother asks about Ethan every week at Bridge Club. She calls him our miracle boy. What should I tell Rebecca? Tell her Ethan is thriving because he's surrounded by people who put children first. I type a simple response. Ethan is doing great. Eleanor and Bill took him to the Science Museum yesterday. He loved the heart exhibit. Rebecca doesn't reply. She never knows how to respond when I mention the Thompson family's involvement in Ethan's life. Each update is a reminder of what her parents chose and what they lost. Grandma Eleanor, watch me do the rings. Ethan calls from across the playground. Eleanor waves and gives him an encouraging thumbs up. He calls her Grandma Eleanor naturally now, the way children do when adults earn their love through consistency and care. He's never asked about your parents, Eleanor observes. Children know who shows up for them. He doesn't need to understand the complicated adult reasons why some people don't. He just knows who does. We sit in comfortable silence, watching Ethan play with the other children. This is what peace feels like, not victory or vindication, but simply the absence of struggle. No more impossible calculations trying to make inadequate money cover essential expenses. No more phone calls begging for help that won't come. No more watching my son grow weaker while explanations grow more elaborate. Sarah, Bill, and I have been discussing something we'd like to run by you. What's that? We'd like to set up a formal trust fund for Ethan's education. Enough to cover college, graduate school if he chooses, whatever he needs to pursue his dreams. The offer doesn't surprise me. The Thompson family gives the way other people breathe, naturally, without expecting recognition or gratitude. Eleanor, you've already done so much. We've done what family does. Ethan is our grandson now, in every way that matters. What about Marcus and Rebecca? How do they feel about that? Eleanor's expression grows serious. Marcus supports it completely. Rebecca has been struggling with some things. What kind of things? Guilt, mostly. She's starting to understand that her perfect wedding came at a cost she didn't consider at the time. I've heard rumors about Rebecca's marriage from mutual acquaintances. The fairy tale romance has been strained by uncomfortable questions about family values and moral priorities. When you build a marriage celebration on a foundation of neglecting a child's medical emergency, that foundation shows cracks eventually. Marcus is a good man, but he's having difficulty reconciling the family he married into with the values he was raised with. That's not my problem to solve. No, it's not. I just wanted you to know that Rebecca is facing consequences for choices she didn't think through. Ethan runs back to us, slightly out of breath but glowing with health and happiness. Can we get ice cream on the way home? Of course, sweetheart. What flavor do you want today? Chocolate chip cookie dough. And can we call Grandpa Bill to tell him about the playground? He'd love that. As we walk toward the car, Ethan chattering about his playground adventures, I think about the family we've built from necessity and choice. Not the family I was born into, but the family that chose us when we needed them most. The Thompson family didn't help us to prove a point or gain social standing. They helped because children's lives matter more than adult convenience. That simple principle guided their actions when my biological family chose differently. Mom, do you think I'll be able to play soccer next year? Dr. Martinez said your heart is strong enough for any sport you want to try. Good. Grandpa Bill said he'd coach my team if I wanted to play. Bill Thompson is 72 years old, retired from running a successful law firm. He's offering to coach youth soccer for a boy he met 6 months ago, because that's what grandfathers do. I don't celebrate my parents' social downfall or Rebecca's marital struggles. Their consequences are simply the natural result of their choices becoming visible to people who understand family loyalty. I celebrate something much quieter and more meaningful. I celebrate Ethan's strong heartbeat and bright future. I celebrate the family that showed up when it mattered. I celebrate the peace that comes from being valued by people who understand that love is measured by actions, not words. Sometimes the greatest victory isn't defeating your enemies. Sometimes it's simply finding people who would never consider making you fight alone in the first place. As we drive toward the ice cream shop, Ethan humming in the back seat and Eleanor planning his birthday party, I understand something I've never known before. This is what family is supposed to feel like. Safe, consistent, and unconditional. Not performance-based or conditional on convenience. Just love that shows up, especially when showing up is difficult. My parents gave me many things over the years, but they never gave me this feeling of security and belonging. The Thompson family gave it to me in 6 months. That's not revenge, that's just grace. Sarah, we were hoping you might reconsider allowing us back into Ethan's life. My mother's voice carries across the school parking lot as I'm loading Ethan's baseball equipment into my car. It's been 8 months since their last attempt at reconciliation, and they look older, more fragile somehow. What's changed since we last spoke? We've been in counseling. We're learning to understand our mistakes better. My father steps forward, his hands empty this time. No checkbook, no props for manipulation. We realize now how our choices affected you and Ethan. Do you? Yes. We see how wrong we were to prioritize Rebecca's wedding over Ethan's medical needs. I finish loading the car and turn to face them fully. They're dressed casually today, not like they're going to court or church. Just two elderly people trying to repair damage they still don't fully comprehend. What else do you see? We see that we hurt you, Sarah. We made you feel invisible and unimportant. And? The pause that follows tells me everything I need to know. They've rehearsed the apology that acknowledges the obvious wrongs, but they still don't understand the deeper betrayal. We'd like to try again. To be real grandparents to Ethan. Why? Because we love him. Do you? Or do you love the idea of not being the grandparents who chose ice sculptures over their grandson's heart surgery? My mother flinches at the directness of the question. Sarah, that's not fair. Isn't it? You're here because your reputation is destroyed and your social circle has shrunk to people who don't know your story yet. You're not here because you suddenly understand love. Ethan comes running out of the school building, his baseball uniform bright against the afternoon sun. He sees my parents and stops, uncertain. Mom, who are they? 8 months ago, this question would have broken my heart. Today, it simply confirms what I already know. Children remember who shows up consistently, not who shows up when it's convenient. These are Grandma and Grandpa Chen, sweetie. They wanted to say hello. Oh, hi. He waves politely, the way we've taught him to greet all adults, then turns to me. Is Eleanor coming to my game tonight? She wouldn't miss it. She and Grandpa Bill will be in the front row. His face lights up the way it should when children talk about their grandparents. Can we go now? Coach said we need to be there early for warm-ups. Of course, get in the car. My parents watch this interaction with something that might be recognition finally dawning. Their grandson doesn't know them because they were never really there to be known. Sarah, please, give us another chance. I gave you chances for 34 years. I gave you 6 months while Ethan was getting sicker. I gave you the choice between wedding flowers and your grandson's medication. We know we failed then. We want to do better now. Why should I believe that? Because we're different now. Are you? When's my birthday? The silence stretches between us like a chasm. After 8 months of counseling and soul-searching, they still don't know when I was born. It's next Tuesday, March 23rd. I'll be 35. Eleanor is throwing me a small party. She remembered without being told, the way people do when others actually matter to them. I get in my car and roll down the window. You can't love selectively and call it family. You can't show up after the crisis is over and call it support. You can't prioritize appearances over children and call it values. Sarah, wait. I'm not angry anymore. I'm just done accepting crumbs from people who should offer me a seat at the table. At the baseball field, Ethan's chosen family fills the bleachers. Eleanor and Bill sit in the front row with a cooler full of snacks and a homemade sign with Ethan's name. My coworkers from the hospital occupy the second row, cheering loudly when he comes to bat. Dr. Martinez and his family are here too, celebrating not just a patient's recovery, but a child they've grown to love. Marcus sits with Rebecca near the back, their relationship still strained but present. Rebecca waves when she sees me, a gesture that carries years of complicated history and uncertain future. From the corner of my eye, I see my parents' car in the parking lot. They're sitting inside, watching through the windshield like outsiders looking in on a life they chose not to be part of. Eleanor squeezes my hand as Ethan steps up to the plate. How did the conversation go? The way they all go. They want to fix their image, not their hearts. Are you okay with that? I'm okay with everything now. Ethan swings at the first pitch and connects solidly. The ball sails over the second baseman's head, and he runs to first base with the speed and strength that surgery gave back to him. Sometimes the greatest revenge is simply living well without the people who never deserved you. Strike two. The umpire's call brings me back to the present moment. Ethan adjusts his stance, focused and determined. In the stands, Bill cups his hands around his mouth. You've got this, kiddo. Just like we practiced. This is what family sounds like. Encouragement without conditions, support without scorekeeping, love that shows up in aluminum bleachers on Tuesday nights, because that's when it matters. The next pitch comes fast, and Ethan swings with perfect timing. The crack of the bat echoes across the field as the ball soars toward the fence. The crowd erupts as he rounds first base, heading for second. Eleanor jumps up, cheering louder than anyone. That's our boy. Our boy, not their biological grandson, but the child they chose to love when his biological grandparents chose otherwise. Ethan slides safely into second base, grinning from ear to ear. He looks up into the stands, finds Eleanor and Bill, and waves with both hands. They wave back, their faces glowing with pride. This is what I never had growing up. Grandparents who showed up not because they had to, but because they wanted to. Adults who remembered what mattered and prioritized accordingly. Rebecca makes her way down from the back bleachers. Sarah, can we talk? Of course. I wanted to apologize. Not for our parents. They can apologize for themselves if they ever figure out how. But for my part in all of this. What part was that? I knew Ethan was sick. I knew you needed help. I chose to focus on my wedding anyway. Yes, you did. I can't undo that choice. But I want you to know I understand now what it cost. What did it cost? It cost Ethan his grandparents. It cost you your family. It cost me my self-respect. I look at her carefully. This might be the first completely honest thing Rebecca has ever said to me. What are you going to do with that understanding? I don't know yet, but I wanted you to know that I see it clearly now. The game continues around us, but this conversation feels separate from everything else, like a moment outside of time. Rebecca, I forgive you. Not because you've earned it, but because I don't want to carry anger anymore. Thank you. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. And it doesn't mean pretending things can go back to how they were. I know. She returns to her seat, and I focus on the game. Ethan scores on the next play, sliding home safely as the crowd cheers. As we pack up after the game, Ethan chattering excitedly about his hits and catches, I see my parents' car still in the parking lot. They've watched the entire game from a distance, seeing their grandson surrounded by love they didn't provide. Eleanor notices them too. Are you going to talk to them? There's nothing left to say. They made their choices, and now they live with the consequences. And you? Are you at peace with your choices? I look around at our chosen family packing up coolers and folding chairs. People who showed up when it mattered, who chose love over convenience, who understood that children's lives are more important than adult comfort. I used to think I needed their love to be complete. Now I know I was complete all along. I just needed to love myself enough to walk away from people who couldn't see my worth. As we walk to our cars, Ethan between Eleanor and me, I feel something I've never experienced before. Complete contentment with the family I've built, rather than regret for the family I was born into. My parents drive away as we're loading the car, disappearing into the distance like shadows at sunset. I don't watch them go. I'm too busy listening to Ethan tell Eleanor about his favorite play of the game, their voices mixing with the sound of other families celebrating together. This is what love sounds like when it's real. This is what family feels like when it's chosen rather than obligated. This is what peace looks like after 35 years of accepting less than I deserved. Perfect.